welcome back to another episode of Experience Marshfield. Today I'm very excited to have Kylan, Ken, and Sondra Hastreiter of Hastreiter Industries. Very excited today to tell you about this great company, and they're here with us today. Kylan, Ken, and Sondra Hastreiter of Hastreiter Industries. And you are going to be blown away by what they do right here in Marshfield. It's going to be a great show. So without any further ado, Kylan, Ken, Sondra, welcome. Before we get into your business, we're very interested to hear how Hastreiter Industries all started. It's a very, very interesting story. So take it away. How did it start?
Well, Ken and I were engaged in 1987, and I actually went out to Cleveland, Ohio to do an internship and a master's program. And we wanted to get married, and for him to move out there, he was concerned about where he would work once we moved back to Marshfield, because he's a Marshfield native. And I just threw out there, I said, well, why don't you just start a business? I don't know where that came from, but that's just kind of an idea I had.
From that day forth, it was gung-ho forward on that endeavor.
Is that right? So you decided, let's just open up a business. Now, you have a family history of businesses as well. Is that correct?
That's correct, Mayor. My father was a plasterer in town. There's many, many houses in town that he plastered, and my grandfather was a plasterer and self-employed, and my great-grandfather was self-employed in Marshfield.
So you've been in Marshfield your whole life?
Born and raised here. Born
and raised. That's very exciting. And so it was just kind of easy then to just get married and then start a business. How did you pick this particular business?
Well, I have an associate degree in machine tool, and going back before that, in senior high, I developed the skill with the help of Dick Johnson in the metalworking industry, or the metalworking class. In my sophomore year, actually, I didn't even have, or junior year, I didn't even have metalworking, and I found myself spending most of my free time in there and made many of the projects for the class. And Dick Johnson told me, hey, if you do the welding project, I'll give you an A for the class. I didn't even know that was possible, but from that day forth, I was pretty much moving forward in this industry.
Is that right? So now at that time when you opened the business, was it 1987?
1988.
1988 that you opened the business. Things were a little bit different for machining then at that time.
Oh yeah, drastically different. It was all manual, and there weren't a lot of CNC. We started with manual equipment, and in 1990 I put on the first CNC piece of equipment, and that was a pretty rarity for a shop to have.
Wow.
But we could see what the future was going to hold and knew that we had to go forward in that. So here I am with a very expensive piece of equipment, and I had never been on a computer before. And of course,
what are they?
Yeah, it had its challenges to work through, and but.
So it was just back then mills and lathes that you started. So at that time, who did you sell to?
Well, we had a customer base of they would have been the oil industry and a little bit in the defense. That would have been mainly what we were doing.
A little bit of defense, so you're literally selling product all over.
Well, we were. The Gulf War was 1990. My memory serves me right. And not too long after that, a lot of that work dried up, and that was pretty hard to weather through. We had to kind of redefine ourselves to some degree and weather through it.
Now, and you have two other boys as well, right? Cody and Keegan.
That's right.
Are they also in the company? They are. So, and then Ian or Kylan, you came along. Sorry. They are also in the company. Is that correct?
That's right. I never foresaw them being a part of the business. I can't tell you how much freedom I felt when they were little, and I realized they did not need to be part of the business. I tried to direct them wherever they wanted to be, but I always told them, you do what you want. You don't have to be here. I was very surprised after they finished their schooling, and they came back and said, this is what we want to do.
Would they come with you to when the business was young? Would they come into the shop and on Saturdays and Sundays? A long time ago when I was out in California, my wife and I, we had a real estate business and mortgage business, and that was a lot of fun when the kids would come over, and everybody loved having the kids there. I would imagine that was the same experience you
Well,
had.
to some degree, I tried to isolating them a lot
Is that
from,
right?
from that. You hear about families who work their kids and they don't want anything to do with it. It's not what their interest is. And
Right.
there were times where stuff needed to be helped with, whether it was packaging or things, but we tried to keep it to a minimum.
So when you first started then, back in 1988, how many pieces of equipment did you have?
Well, we started out with one manual lathe and then put on a manual mill shortly after that. Of course, there were other support, a lot of support equipment, air compressors, things like that. And then in 1990, we put on our first CNC. It was a lathe. And once we got those payments underway, in 95, we put a second piece on. And from there in 98, we put on another piece, and things got a little bit easier at that point.
Is that right? So Kylan, since then, you're kind of the front man now, is that correct? Mm-hmm. So where is the business at now?
All right.
From how many pieces of equipment, employees, things like that?
So we are up to 16 full-time employees, actually starting next month because we just hired somebody from Oklahoma. And so we are going to be, so we have 8 CNC machines right now with 2 more on the way.
18 CNC
8.
machines.
8 CNC machines, sorry.
Wow.
Yep.
Oh, that's a big, and so who do you sell? And I don't know if you can even tell me what type of products that you make.
So we do a lot of work in the aerospace industry. So we make a lot of parts for aircraft, for the space industry, whether it's for satellites or for rockets. We've got a fun part just sitting on our display case right now that was actually a core sampler for heading up into space for landing on a celestial body. And we do a lot of work for the defense industry. Can't say what those parts are, but they're pretty cool though. Fair amount of work for the energy industry, so oil, like jet, like parts that go into the jet engines on oil rigs, wind turbines, power generation, as well as automation equipment. So parts for like conveyors, parts that are going into plants that make food, plants that make cars. So basically the equipment that helps make other stuff.
As well as a lot of prototype.
A lot of prototyping as well.
Wow. But those, when you're dealing in defense and for airplane parts, the tolerance on those has to be like 1/1000th of an inch or something. I mean, the tolerance is amazing.
On the tolerances, especially with the lathes, can be as tight as 1/10 of an, like 1/10,000th of an inch.
Wow. So I would imagine a lot is keep it, those machines really have to be precision. Do you have to do a lot to keep them tuned up or serviced, if you will, or how do you keep them at that precision level?
I mean, well, step one, making sure you buy good equipment, right? You got to buy good top of the line stuff. Step two, making sure you have the best employees. We put a lot of focus in hiring the right people, giving them the tools that they need, whether it's training or support, to really be the most effective at their job as possible. And when you have individuals like that, they want to take care of the equipment. They want to do the right thing. And then it just kind of becomes self-functioning.
So where were you at, say, 5 or 6 years ago? How many employees did you have at that time?
1 full-time employee.
1 full-time employee 5 years ago,
Yep.
and now you're at 16.
Yep.
Wow. So what's been the big change?
So back in 2013, it's 2011, they got a vision for a nonprofit organization. And they put it together as a 501c3 in, was it 2013? 2014?
2014.
2014. And the idea is that there's a lot of people that come out of challenged backgrounds that they want change in their life, but where do they get it? Right? People like us, we got to where we're at because we had parents or a mentor, a Boy Scout leader. We had people in our lives that helped guide us, right? There's people that don't necessarily have that, but they want change. They want to move forward in their life. And so there's really good nonprofits that are working with individuals, such as like inner city Milwaukee or more rural areas too. But when they leave the 4 walls of those nonprofits, where do they go? They don't have really an education. They might not have a skill. They might have a criminal background, so they go back to their old environment. And what happens in their old environment? it makes it hard for them to continue moving forward.
Sure.
Right? And so the idea is that we could use the nonprofit to continue that path of transformation, right? Continue that mentorship because they want it, right? In their personal life, family life, community life, and spiritual life. But then we use the business to give them a trade skill because now they can actually stand on their own personally. Like right now in Central Wisconsin needs 13,000 machinists, according to the Department of Workforce Development. There is such a demand for the trades, right? So you have these people that want to do something with their life. There's a huge opportunity here. Well, let's get it meshed together. Let's marry it. And now it impacts that individual and it transforms communities as you continue to transform individuals' lives.
Wow. So many of the trades need people right now.
Yep.
You just don't have them. And there's been that debate over the last 10 years of going to get a college education to do the trades, and I think there was a lot of emphasis put on going to get that college education, and then there's all these trades that are great jobs, great incomes coming out of them, kind of got left behind. So it's interesting that this is being filled. But man, I got to tell you, to go from 1 to 16 in 5 years, good for you. So there's this practical question that I'm sure I'm not the only one thinking. You got to handle your books over here. You got to handle the machines, make sure those are all up. But if you are going out to in the defense industry and all these different industries that you're doing, how do you get that business? Does somebody go out and do you have a salesperson that goes out and get it, or is it on the internet? How do you attract the business?
So, yeah, people tend to confuse marketing with advertising, right? You know, you see an ad in the paper, that's not marketing, that's a portion of marketing. You know, so as a business, when we decided that we wanted to grow, right, because if we wanted to take these individuals on to train them, our business wasn't big enough for it. So we decided that we needed to grow, right? This was starting in 2016, we had only one employee. So looking at the company, we had to create a multifaceted approach if we wanted to grow, right? Because you want to grow in multiple directions, right? Not just one. And so we had to, Keegan was actually our sales guy. He would go and do calls like in the Milwaukee area, out and about, right? I was doing the marketing and the media stuff. You know, so I built our first website. We didn't even have a website until 2016, right? Our customer base was our customer base, and they just kept, you know, sending us orders. You know, had to figure out who we wanted to target, right? Because you don't want there's an infinite number of customers out there almost, right? So you have to choose who you want to go for. So looking at our company, our quality and on-time delivery was like through the roof. It's far higher than the average machine shop, right? And so we were mostly in the energy industry at that point, and which industries tend to prefer or need high quality, high reliability? It's the aerospace and defense industries. So it made the most sense for us to go back to those industries. And so it really became a combination of, you know, cold calling, combination of building our media presence online, you know, putting out our website, creating content so that when people actually Google something, we actually show up, right? For the first couple years, I mean, I probably only spent like $25 on advertising tops, right? And in 2017, our sales grew by 75%.
Wow.
Right? You don't have to spend a lot of money to grow. But it's good. It has to take time, it has to take focus, it takes energy, and it takes tactics and strategy to figure out where you want to go and how to get there. There's a lot of, for other businesses in Marshfield, talk to other businesses. There's a lot of books out there to use. There's the Small Business Development Center out of University of Stevens Point. There's a lot of resources that you can use if you want to move forward, right? And in our industry especially, actually one of the other machine shop owners in town, he made a comment once that if you look at the businesses that go out of business in our industry and they have an auction for their equipment, all the equipment is old. So if you're not moving forward, you're going to be moving back, you will become obsolete, right? So for our business, we have this strong social focus, but we have to have a very strong technological focus, right? And so we're very cutting edge on our technology side, and we have a very strong vision and purpose for our company's existence. So now when we have a customer or a potential customer that finds us and they look at us and they come in and tour, they see all this. They see how we're moving forward technologically. They see our mission and vision. They see how we've retained every single employee we've hired, and it makes them feel comfortable. And they say, I do want to do work with this business.
You bring up a great point, because in this short period of time, you've almost reinvigorated your business and really have had great growth. And you've seen here in Marshfield, we started off the year with Figgy's going out of business and ShopGo and Office Depot. And if I'm hearing you correctly, and I 100% agree with you, if you're not staying current with the time, you're going to have problems. If currently right now your business model is to make brand new typewriters, you're going to struggle.
Yep.
You could have the best typewriter in town, but and so I really appreciate you bringing that up to keep moving forward, moving ahead technologically and everything else. So
Bob, if I can interject on
please do.
that. We've heard from many different areas, we've all have, the reviewers out there have, that automation is taking jobs. And there is some truth to that, but it's also creating jobs. When I hear a politician on TV say, complaining because automation is taking jobs, I can't tell you how upset that makes me. If we want to follow that logic and that thinking, then we need to get rid of the tractors, because that's automation.
Tractors took a lot of jobs.
Very good point.
If
From
we
people in the
want to
field.
follow that train of thought, then we need to get rid of the grocery store, because that's automation. You cannot go down that trail. Automation is what keeps us competitive in the world market. Automation is what allows us to buy shoes for $15 to $20. No, automation. We have to follow the path of automation.
Absolutely. So, back in 1988, when you decided to open this business, because you just thought it'd be a good thing to do for him to have a job, did you ever see it like it is today? Because I will tell you, this is very impressive, and I don't think that a lot of people are aware of Hastreiter Industries here, because it sounds like your customers are literally all over the country, if not all over the world, and you're located right here in Marshfield. I think that's very exciting.
We are shipping parts internationally. And no, I don't know that I ever foresaw this. Many years ago, and we built a house with the intention to keep low profile. We put up a large garage, precast, and the shop was underneath the garage. It was fantastic. I could come home. I was always home. I would have lunch with the kids. They didn't really know any different. Dad was always home. That didn't mean that there weren't long hours, but I was always home with them, and that was important to me. The intent was to stay small, be a small business, and I was happy with that.
Wow, man! If that's not the American dream, where you can own your own business and be home to have lunch with the kids. Clearly, family is very important to you. That's very, very clear, and you've done a great job. Any final thoughts that you have for anybody here in Marshfield, just to give them a little bit of maybe the perseverance of what you've done over the last several years?
It's I have to think for a little bit on that one. Let me back up here. If you look at Marshfield right now, it's easy to get an initial negative perception. You had Figgies that happened. A lot of the retailers have gone out of business, and we're all buying stuff online. We're buying stuff from Amazon. So why are we so surprised when these retail businesses go out of business? Like, we should be able to see the consequences of our own actions, and it's okay. And the reason it's okay is because the way that our economy works is it just shifts, right? It just shifts, and the old falls away for those that don't stay current. And so now that these retailers have gone out and the internet has, let's just say, popped up more, well, do we see the businesses in Marshfield that are selling online to the rest of the country? We don't see them because they're tucked away in the industrial park. They're not on Main Street where we all drive past every day. Right? So if you step away from the retail out, on the main dragways and you walk over to the industrial park, it's booming. businesses are popping up, buildings are getting built. You've got PCA that's building, boxes for Amazon. So jobs are being abundant there. When Figgies went out of business and a trade fair was held for them, there were like 2 or 3 times more jobs available than what the jobs were lost from Figgies. And the reason is because of what's happening in the industrial park, because we're selling to other cities, not just Marshfield. And there's a lot of opportunities for people that are looking for jobs, and there's a lot of opportunities for other businesses to sell to these businesses that are popping up in Marshfield.
You bring up a great point. If you look at people read the headlines, and typically the headlines are the negative ones are the headlines that get read, not the positive ones. But you bring up, PCA, Marshfield Door, Rail, so many different companies with literally hundreds of jobs. What I'm hearing from business owners all around Marshfield is, as you said, they've got plenty of jobs, good paying jobs. They can't find people to do them. So we hear this illusion that, the economy's not going well, but that's the illusion. The reality is the economy is going quite well. You see you're right, in the industrial park, many businesses there are thriving and expanding. You're right. And even our downtown with Uptown Coffee just opened up. The escape room, I did an interview at the escape room just last week that was a lot of fun. And you're not going to be able to buy anything from them at their facility. It'll all be online. So when you show up, you can just enjoy the escape room experience. So I believe it is changing. And I will tell you, I'm very, very excited for you all. If you would like to get some more information on Hastreiter Industries, you can look just down below here and you can see their website and email addresses. Kylan, Ken, Sondra, thank you so much for coming today. This was a pleasure to get to know you. I learned a lot. It's amazing how many great businesses that we have going on right here in Marshfield. And I hope you will contact them, take a look at their story, go to their website. Thank you very much for tuning in to today's version of Experience Marshfield.